What's goody to any and everybody who may be listening? Okay. It's about that time to get into the house. Hell House 2226, otherwise or better known as 2226 Southwestern Avenue. And that would be in Los Angeles. This is where I spent about 2 years. Now, this was the first time that I had come into some sort of real stability where I was alone in my own space in a room though, but it was still my own space. I did not have to share it with a roommate. It was just me, myself, and I. Now, this was a place by the name of Fame. FAME stands for First something Baptist Church, First AME Church. Now this was satanic. Again, these churches are satanic. This is Yeshua does not need these churches to be preaching and screaming and hollering in that pulpit for him, which is me and my counterpart together as one. Okay. But okay. Let's get into some things that happened at this house. Now, this is where I came into a lot of the pieces. This is where a lot of the pieces came together. This is where I had to do a lot of the traveling into the underworld. This is where I had to ingest a particular drug, a drug that I ingested about 4 or 5 times. Okay. In order so that the pieces would come. Okay, as I dissected the psychosis, the state of psychosis, and put the pieces of the puzzle together based on what I already knew prior to ever piercing the veil and traveling into the underworld. This is the house where all of that took place. Now, I don't even know where to start. I'm going to go ahead and start with, let's go ahead with the house in general. Call our light sparks back. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, stolen, trapped within the midst of that house, Hell House 2226, otherwise known as 2226 Southwestern Avenue, that house for HIV and AIDS patients, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Now, this might be a long one. It's going to be a little messy, and I'm going to be getting a little mean, too. So you're going to have to bear with me. Now, we're going to go in chronological order of the people that I met in this house. We're going to start with a dude by the name of Mike. Let's start with Mike. Now, Mike was worse. He was in my face day and night, trying to holler. I always told him no. I told him I had a man, even though I was single and celibate. Okay, but it was a no for me. Number one, he was old, and I don't do old men. Okay, but he wasn't old, but he was sure enough older than me, and he just got on my nerve. Now, what I will say is that when he left the house, he did leave me. He left his dresser, a microwave, and then thank you because I didn't have nothing in that room. I was sleeping on the floor. He also left a bed. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up with any of that, the bed, Mike himself, that dresser, the microwave, any of that shit he gave me, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child in one. Me. Okay. Now let's move on. Now I forgot this dude's name. He lived downstairs. I got some shit to talk about. Now, on my second day there, this old far, number one, old. Number two, real fat and out of shape. Number three, he had long hair, but that hairline was receding. Now, I ain't got no problem. One thing about me, I ain't got no problem with receding hairlines. But if your shit receding, bitch, don't be trying to grow it out and get it edged up and shaped up. Cut it bald. Let that shit go. He had the nerve to be up in my face, trying to holler with that hairline pushed all the way back. Okay? And was pretty much begging. And also, we gotta talk about that girlfriend. Now, she was okay. I liked her. I gotta admit, she seemed like an empath. But she seemed like she was under his control, trapped, and it's like she would try to pull me into her energy. Now let's go ahead and call our light sparks back from both of them. She did not know that her man tried to holler. You do not know how much it took for me not to tell her. You need to let him. You need to get rid of it because he done been in my face trying to get some pussy. He done been all up in my. He done been all up in my face trying to get some motherfucking pussy or some mouth. You better leave that man. You don't know how much strength I had to have not to tell her. Okay, when I should have told her. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped, stolen within the midst of them two, and I forgot their name, but you know, spirit, you know what I'm talking about, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now, who next? Let's get into, I just gotta say, now this is real quick, Shitty McFitty. Now, I call this individual Shitty McFitty. Now, we didn't have any too much of an altercation, though one time I will say that one time I was in the bathroom, getting ready or getting dressed in the shower, and this individual came up in the bathroom, and when he saw it was me, he decided that he wanted to kind of look and act like he was going to proceed to come. I had to get him together and tell him to get the fuck out. Okay? And he was shocked that I did it in the way I did it. And now, also, this individual was shitty and left shit, just stayed shitting in the toilet. Okay, and left shit everywhere. Got on my nerves. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped within just him shitty McFitty is what I called him, getting on my nerves with all that damn shit and things of this nature, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child who dwelleth within the one body. Okay? Me. Now, let's talk about who next besides Shitty McFitty. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Caleb. Okay? Poor old Caleb. Now, Caleb had done moved to the house, and he was cool at first. Something about his body odor, but it won't too bad. But I tried to help Caleb, like, cause I could see something. See, when I be around these energies, and the tension be so thick that you can cut it with a knife, I don't like that. I be trying to get to what is it? Why is the energy thick? So that's what I was trying to do. Okay, I was trying to get at the energy. What was that energy? Okay. However, I was treated very poorly in the I was treated poorly, I should say, and we had a little we just stopped speaking for a while. And then let's go ahead and call it like I decree and declare that any and all of my energy that got caught up with Caleb and me trying to befriend him, have a friendship with him, seeing something in him, that I didn't see. That was the thing about, see, within this illusion right here, I was seeing a lot of stuff that I didn't really see. A lot of it were like a lot of the stuff that I thought I saw, I didn't really see. It was illusions. Okay, that once I went back and looked again, damn, that, wow. That's this individual. A lot of those things. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks, so fragments that got caught up in the midst of Caleb in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, I did try to get him with a letter. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that letter, okay, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now let's go ahead. Let's move on. Now let's talk about Mike. Let's talk about Mike. Now Mike, this is an individual who was pressed. A crackhead. A man, ain't no telling what else head that he was. Let's go ahead and call out life for Mike. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of Mike with his energy vampire to the core. And we're going to be getting into Mike. Released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now let's get into some of these incidents. Now we started out cool. It was cool between me and Mike. The one thing that I noticed about Mike is that he was in everybody's face. He needed everybody's attention. He needed to be up in everybody's face. He did too much, talking too much. Okay, and just didn't care. Now one thing that happened. Now at this time I had I had some coins. I had some coins. They was flowing in my pocket, flowing in and out. I had me a cute Gucci. I had me a cute Gucci bag, a clutch or whatever. The green. It was green, yellow, and red, and things of this nature that I had left. Now at this time, the warfare was huge. So of course there was a lot of black orbs and the etheric courting and things of this nature. So I left my bag. It's crazy of me because I had all my money up in there. I had done left my bag down yonder downstairs in the chair that I was sitting in on the porch while I went upstairs in the room to take a nap or whatever. And it was Mike who touched my bag. I would have rather it got stolen than for Mike with those demons, a legion. He had a legion up in him of demons. I would have rather it be stolen than him touched it and brought it to me. But nonetheless, he did. Let's go ahead and call our life for that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of Michael, bringing me that, bringing me my bag, to having to touch my bag to bring it to me. Released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now that's when we was cool, but at the same time I noticed that he was worrisome. He would come knocking on my door. Don't knock on my door. Don't interrupt me. That's one thing. I do not like to be interrupted. Do not interrupt me. I don't care if I won't do nothing. Don't knock on my door. I had never had my door knocked on until he came and knocked on it and disrupted me. Okay. And let's get into the fallout. Okay. So one day he had came up to me asking me if I knew like something about pills. Now this was about some Vicodin. He was about to get some Vicodin. He was trying to sell them or whatever. And see, it might seem a little petty what I got mad at, but see, don't have me anticipating. Don't have me waiting. Okay, on something that you don't ever do. He ain't say nothing about it after that. He did not deliver on it, nor did he say nothing about it. I just and once that happened, I closed up and put him on my list of shade and don't even look at that bitch. Ever since that day, I ain't looking at that bitch no more. Okay, but we kept getting into arguments because the bitch is a vampire, and he would do things like try to pull my gaze, just like all these humans do, try to pull my gaze into their gaze, and things of this nature. Let's go ahead and call life source after that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of that anger and that rage that I experienced with Michael not coming through on them pills when he said he was coming through that night and had me waiting and anticipating, harvesting that energy while I was waiting and anticipating. Okay? All released, excuse me, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Okay. And we got into an argument. We got into about 2 arguments, but let's just focus on this one. But we're gonna be calling back our life as well. Now, he had his phone out and everything, as I was calling him all sorts of motherfucking crackheads and wormy bitches, cause he had a stomach poked out, looked like he had worms and shit. So we got into an argument. He had his phone out and it recorded me like a typical narcissist. Let's call life source back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within any of those arguments between myself and Michael, and when he pulled out that phone and got to recording, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? So let's go ahead and move on to the next. Let's talk about the trans girl. Now, this girl, she was alright at first. She was cool at first, a white girl. But it was something about her that I was noticing from the giddy. It was like I started not to like her very slowly, very, very slowly. She would just say real smart shit about the people in the house, and I was like, well, are you talking about me too? Bitch, don't say no smart shit. So one day I just stopped speaking to her, and it was detrimental. And I got to say this before I come on that subject. Listen, now she done moved out the house. I was so happy she was getting out of the house because she got on my nerves. That body, it was botched. That butt, it looked like it was hard, like it did not move, and things of this nature. She stayed in the mirror. That hair was coming out her head and falling into the sink. It got on my nerves. Oh my God, I'm trying to tell you. So, when she moved out, by that time I was so over her and not speaking to her that the bitch tried to hug me, and I held to the no. I put my hand up to block that from happening. Because, bitch, I don't like you. Now, I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped, stolen within her, that trans girl, period, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Let's move on. Okay, so now let's move on to the white guy who moved into the same room that Mike, the first one I was talking about, Mike lived in. Now this white guy, he was alright at first. I did notice that he got into arguments with people, and the next day he'll be in their face talking to them. He ain't had no backbone. He did not. I started not to like him. I noticed that he went to this person and said this. He went to that person and said that, talking shit. I noticed that about him. Okay, this was also the individual who helped me out. I'm not gonna say he helped me out, but he a couple of times where I needed to use that drug to go under, he helped me to acquire the drug. All the while telling individuals that he won't go tell nobody, which I did not really give a fuck about, because I wouldn't be here telling you about it now if I gave a fuck about it. Okay. Anyway, running at the mouth, running that trap. Okay. Let's call him out. And I also did a reading for him, which it was pointless because he was doing the same shit. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of that white dude that stayed in the same building, that the same room where Mike stayed at, released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay, I'm gonna cut this short and I'm gonna break this up into two parts. But hold on right quick, I got one more for you. That I got a couple more. Now let's talk about the dude that lived downstairs. Now this dude had just moved in like 3 months prior to me moving out. Now, he was a mess, but one thing I did notice about him, I can't say that I sort of liked him. I did like him, and I noticed that he could not help his problem. It was not personal. He did that with everybody. Eventually got the customer. It was always a argument or something like that, but he was like bipolar or something like that, and paranoid, and thought everybody was like schizoaffective and things of this nature. I could see that clearly. I always got chills with him, so I felt like it was something. Spirit was always near, or something about spirit, because even after I stopped seeing him at the house, he moved out and I moved out, I kept bumping into him. But let's go ahead and call the light sparks back from him. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within I don't forgot his name. I will forget your name in a minute. But spirit, you know what I'm talking about, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the dude that stayed in the room prior to this guy staying there. He was me and this dude was cool. You know, me and this dude, we smoked. There was never anything like we ain't get into no argument or nothing. The dude did his drugs. The one thing that I noticed about him was that he liked white boys or Hispanic. He did not like black dudes, but it didn't matter because I won't try to holler at him anyway. But anyway, let's just call our light sparks back from him. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that dude, and I forgot his name, but are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now let's talk about the I don't know what's wrong with him, but he was in a wheelchair and he lived downstairs. Now, he was cool at first. Again, he was real cool at first. We used to speak to each other all the time, every day. You know, eventually it turned sour. And, you know, I won't really try to be petty, but I was being a little petty towards the dude, and he was in a wheelchair. Let me go ahead and call hospital. Now, I got to say that the first time I went under, it was the first time that I went under. Even though nothing spectacular happened in terms of the psychosis where I was acting out, But we're gonna be getting on that because I eventually I acted out inside that house, like the third time. We're gonna be getting on that. That's why I'm gonna split it up. Anyway, it was after this first time where I went under and got a huge chunk of my soul back. I had gotten a huge chunk after piercing the veil that first time, which we're going to be getting into, okay? I got a huge chunk of my soul back after piercing the veil, a huge fragment back. And after that, the dude stopped speaking or you know, it's called my light sparks. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of that dude and the black dude that lived downstairs with stinking, and he stunk all of them time the way he smelled. Ooh, child. Are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now, the other two ain't really that important, but I'm just going to call my light sparks back from them because we were, we spoke and things of this nature. We never got into a spat or argument. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of the last two. There's one more, but he moved real quick. So, 3. These 3 are released, removed, freed up, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Before we end this, I got 2 more because now, thankfully, it's 2 more. Now, my neighbor. Now let's go ahead and talk about my next door neighbor, the one that moved in right next door to me. I gotta tell you, I did not like this individual. Fake. But these people, that's what they like. They like to be fake. They like to talk about this one and run to that one and talk about them. They like to talk to that one and run to this one and talk about all that. Okay, this is what this individual did. He engaged in this type of behavior, and you should have seen the way he looked. Number 1, it was the body made wrong. It was that BMW for me. Okay. Number 2, it was that eye. Okay, that eye was sitting far to the right, far to the right, and had the nerve to be nosy. Now he was nosy. Not only how you gonna be nosy with a cock eye? What you looking? What you gonna see? How you gonna be nosy with an eye cock like that? He was nosy. All next door, trying to figure out what I was doing in my room. Like, to a certain extent, all of them really knew what I was doing because this house was a plant. This house, in and of itself, I was supposed to move to that house. This house was there specifically for me. It knew that I was coming. The people around it that worked together, these masons and shit, these networks, they knew that I was coming to that house. Okay? So they all knew what I was in there doing when I would go under, which was rare, especially using that strong drug. I only used that drug a few times, but the drug that I would really use was Adderall, and even then it was rare that I went under. I didn't go under a lot. Okay. So let's go ahead and call our lights off from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped within the midst of that nosy neighbor with that cock eye and that body and the movements. He moved like a gorilla. Literally, he moved like that. That trauma stuck in his body that he ain't got down. No. All released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. He even had a little guest that came over and said, let's call our life source from that guest. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that were caught up, lost, stolen, trapped within the guest that he had brought over there to spend the night, them few nights, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now let's get on the last one. I got to say the best for last. This individual, and by the name of Elijah. We're gonna be talking about Elijah, that old poor thing, poor wretched lost thing. Okay, now I gotta tell you, at first we were cool at first. Okay, I can't say teaching, but I was trying to show him something. He was young. I was giving him compliments about, you know, him being a rebel. He was not. He was cloaking himself in a certain energy. He was not that. Okay. Let me tell you about some of these antics he used to do. Okay. Now, when I first met him, I gotta tell you, he was running around door to door, knocking on different doors, asking for dick. He was knocking on doors. He was going door to door in that house looking for dick. Do you hear me? And I was disgusted. Okay. Now, as well as him having almost every night, it was a different white dude or Hispanic dude, something like that, up in the house. And again, at this time, warfare was high. So not only were they there, they were attacking me through the eyes and things of this nature. Let's go ahead and call ourselves that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within Elijah as a whole, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of any of Elijah's dates that would come on down to plow his cakes, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. I gotta talk about them knock knees, child, because it was them knock knees for me. It was the knock knees. Them knees was straight knocking together. Okay? Now that was one thing about it. Not only was it the knock knees, it was the body. It was made wrong. He had titties and a chest full of hair, which I like hair on my man chest, but not that. Now I do like hair, but not that, okay? And them titties was sagging, that stomach was sagging too, okay? Now what else, honey? Now I told you I was gonna be a little mean. What else? Now I gotta talk about the last time, like right before I left the house. Now this would be the last and final time that I traveled into the underworld. This is where it was it. This was where I won. This is where I got through. I got past the motherfucking gatekeepers trying to keep me away. This was it. This was the victory. Okay. This last and final time I went under, where I almost lost my life. Okay. Now we gotta talk about the psychosis. The psychosis from this one. Oh my God, I had not experienced psychosis like this ever. Now I'm telling you, they was ready. When I went down up under there, they was ready for me because they knew I was coming. Now I gotta tell you that around this same time is when I started to collect the cans and the bottles. I did not know that it was connected to this like that. But once I got down into that psychosis is when we're going to get to that because I'm going to do a part 2. But I just wanted to talk about Elijah right quick. Now, this individual by the name of Elijah, he was into that Orisha. I'm not going to call this shit no more. I mean, I don't know what to... Listen. When I was mad at Arumala, I was calling it shit. Okay, I at this point I don't know how he feel about it, but cause I ain't talked to him yet, but I don't want to be mean to him or disrespect him at all. But Elijah was into it. The thing about that to me is that this is an individual who wanted to be everything but black. So for you to be into African spirituality, what? You wanted to be everything but black. All the men that you had, I ain't seen you with not one black man. Okay? You claiming that you this, that, and the third, you Hispanic and you bitch, boo. Okay? I did a lot of readings with him. Let's go ahead and call ourselves back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of any of those readings that I did for Elijah, or any of those conversations that I would have with Elijah, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now, when I got down into that psychosis, like I'm telling you, I was down in there. Like, you know how you see those meth addicts on the street and they be, talking to themselves or cussing and fussing. I was doing that, child. I was all around the house cussing and fussing. But it was the shadow people that I was cussing and fussing at and things of this nature. Telling them to get their shit and get the fuck out. Along with just having these battles with these demons. Like, the whole house came alive. But again, we're going to be talking about that in the next edition. Let me finish with Elijah. This individual did not have any compassion, because while I was in psychosis. I was deep in psychosis, but I could still cognize. I could still, because this is a part of what I do. Working with the darkness, knowing how to work with darkness, knowing how to consciously work with darkness to clear it. This is what I do. Okay, so I was still conscious, although I was in psychosis. Okay, and they had no compassion. I was seeing shit. Of course, I was seeing shit, but and I would ask them, y'all don't see that? Y'all don't see? And I'm talking about Elijah and Mike. They were like double teaming me in some way. In that instance, I was in psychosis. I did not know what to do. I was lost and confused. And at the moment in psychosis, like, what's going on? Y'all don't see that? Nonetheless, they did not have any compassion. They chose to attack me and gaslight and things of this nature right along with those visions or the psychosis itself. I gotta say this, then we're gonna close out. This individual, now it got to the point where I was like, well, fuck this bitch, and I got to reading that bitch. I read about her knock knees, and I read about her body. Okay? And this bitch had the nerve to pull out a knife. Now, this knife that she pulled out, it was hooked, this was a hooked knife that she pulled out. I'm talking about Elijah. Now, let's go ahead and call ourselves back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped within the midst of Elijah pulling out that knife, and of Mike and Elijah double teaming me, and that to gaslight me in my most vulnerable state, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. I'm going to be coming right back with part 2. Thank you. Bye-bye.